Welcome to a special extra episode of Beat Check with the Oregonian. I'm Julie Evenson, engagement editor here at the Oregonian, and I'm with social media producer Destiny Johnson. Today we're discussing the case of Kyron Horman, who disappeared from Portland's Skyline Elementary School in June 2010. The case, which has never been solved, has fascinated the public for 15 years.
For those who may not be as familiar with the case, here are the key details. On June 4th, 2010, second grader Kyron Horman was dropped off at Skyline School in Northwest Portland for a science fair by his stepmom, Desiree Horman. She took a photo of him that day in front of his display board about red-eyed tree frogs. He vanished within an hour of that photo. It would become a very important photo because he's pictured in the clothes he was last known to be wearing. While the photo serves as evidence that Kyron certainly made it to school that day and was at least momentarily at the science fair, he never made it to his classroom after that fair. His father, Kyron Horman, and stepmother, Terry, went to pick him up at the bus stop after school, but Kyron wasn't on the bus. His parents knew then something was wrong. After racing to the school and not locating him there, 911 was called. His disappearance prompted the largest search and rescue operation in Oregon history at the time, but he's never been found. In 15 years, there has been almost no public movement in the case, let alone an arrest or prosecution.
But now there is some news. Newly elected Multnomah County District Attorney Nathan Vasquez is looking at the case again.
We're here with Noels, Crombie, investigative journalist with The Oregonian currently, and 15 years ago you were working the case of Kyron Horman's disappearance when it happened. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, this whole story feels very, the beginning of it was so memorable. We had a really large breaking news team at the time at the Oregonian, and we were in the building downtown in a different building, and it was a really it was a team of really experienced reporters, and a lot of them had a lot of experience on reporting on crime in the justice system. And I remember this call coming in late in the day on a Friday, and the school year is wrapping up, and so it's late in a spring or early summer day that we get this. We learned that this little boy had gone missing from a Portland elementary school. And these crimes are these kinds of episodes are so memorable because they're so unusual, and they're generally rare, for children to be abducted and to go missing like this, children of this age. And it really mobilized the editor at the time, John Killen, really mobilized the entire team around this, and there were many of us working on it right from the start and through the weekend, and we knew immediately how important this potential crime could be, and also we were dealing with a young child, so I think we all felt a lot of urgency around what has happened to this little boy, and doing our jobs to sort of inform the public about this. And this is way before social media and before all of the modern modern life, and so we were working phones, and we were heading out there to the scene, and just doing a lot of really gumshoe reporting from the start.
So we've talked a little bit with everybody about why this case has stuck with people so strongly in the community. I know it's probably because it's unsolved, but what do you think? A lot of kids go missing. Why this case? Why is it still so resonant for people?
I mean, I think there's several reasons for it. I mean, I think the age of Kyron, he was very young. He was an elementary schooler. People, he was very vulnerable. He's not wasn't even a teen. He was just a little kid. In elementary school, and everyone knows, especially if you're a parent or if you're an aunt or a cousin. I mean, people know that there's no independence in a second grader's. So wherever he was very vulnerable. And I think that has stayed, that people knowing that has kept, has helped the story to endure. And also I think the fact that this is a boy who disappeared truly without a trace. And the circumstances surrounding his disappearance, while the subject of a tremendous amount of speculation, do remain mysterious. And we do not know what happened that day. And so I think that, plus the passionate advocacy of his mother, um, and the fact that we are now in a time when, um, you know, this case has become, and I hate to say this, because at the heart of this is a missing child and parents who are hurting, and but also, there's this true crime fascination, and so you've got this community of amateur sleuth type people who kind of can glom on to cases like this, and also elevate them, online, and give it honestly, give it almost a separate life there. And so I think those things, plus, listen, this had, some tabloid aspects to it and continues to have some of that. Um, there were This was an era in talk shows, so there were talk show episodes, with, at the time, well-known talk show hosts, Dr. Phil. I mean, so, there were a lot of things, the age of the boy, the parents' strong advocacy, this tabloid quality, and then, I think today's true crime aficionados have seized on it for the reasons they seize on things.
Did that tabloid aspect have any impact on how you and other reporters at the Oregonian at the time covered the story? Like, I know People Magazine was involved at one point. The parents went on Dr. Phil. How did that impact the coverage?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I don't know that it did, because I think, you had really veteran reporters and editors who kept at the very heart of this story, what it was truly about, and, making sure we were breaking stories, and we were always, kind of ahead, and really keeping the public informed. I think those things steered it much more than those external forces. I think from the start, we've always known this was a really significant story for the community. In a lot of ways, it I don't want to over, I don't want to, make this sound bigger than it is in a way, but it did have a kind of community rallying quality to it, because, really, Kyron is one of the very few crime victims who everyone knows who that you're talking about, with only the use of first name reference, and everyone, knows what Kyron looks like, in the community. And so I think that for us at the paper, or at the Oregonian, we really kept, the news fundamentals of this all along. Plus, my colleague Maxine Bernstein broke some really critical stories early on that I think, really shaped some of the trajectory of this case, and have had a lasting, it really has shaped what some believe happened here.
Yeah, totally. I think that's being able to look back at all the work that was done at the time to read it sort of chronologically, many years past, is really amazing. You can see the way that we responded, and we continued to respond until we simply could not. And I mean, we continue to respond to this day, but you could see the real concentrated effort, which was great. As you work through long stories that require a lot of labor, you take in a lot of information and don't always put all of it out, because not all of it needs to be put out. Was there ever anything that sort of hit you about this case that you were like, I wish I knew the answer to that, or I wish I had figured that piece of information out? Obviously, everybody wants to know where Kyron is, or to find his remains, if that's what is on the table. But there are so many interesting pieces of this case, like you kind of talked about. Was there anything that sort of stuck with you?
Honestly, the thing that has stayed with me most is just, when I interviewed Desiree Young, Kyron's mother, a few weeks ago, the thing that I found so haunting is speaking with a mother who is still managing to get up every day and live her life, not knowing what has happened to her very vulnerable and very young child, and continuing to just try her best to live her life amid that loss. That's the thing that has stayed with me since the beginning of this. And um, there are lots of things that, of course, we would wonder about. The real nitty gritty timeline on that morning is there's a lot of things we would love to know the answers to. But I think the thing that this sort of overall aspect of this that remains very enduring for me is that his mother and father continue to live with a tremendous loss.
You were interviewing her recently because the new Multnomah County DA has pledged new resources toward the case. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Desiree Young has been really a tireless advocate for this case, and she's seen a lot of DAs come and go. And I saw her on the campaign trail for the current DA, Nathan Vasquez, and I knew she was a supporter of his, and she had spoken with him during the campaign about giving the case, another look. And so I asked him about that as the anniversary approached, and he said that, in fact, he was planning to take another look at the case, or task people in his office with doing a review of the case. And I mean, I guess a case like this would require, if this case ever went to trial, for instance, I mean, this would require a tremendous amount of financial resources. We're talking about a super complex case. And so I think he's assessing it, and I guess we'll see what his decision is. I don't anticipate a quick turnaround on a decision like that. This is a huge case. It fills dozens of boxes. It feels like a room. And I don't think it's a question of just reading some summary reports and making a decision. And I spoke with Mike Schmidt, the Nathan Vasquez's predecessor, and he told me that he had a senior deputy district attorney assigned to be the point person for this investigation during his tenure, his 4-year tenure, and he said that there was nothing of significance that investigators developed in that time. And if there's been something that's developed since Nathan's been in office, of course, we're not aware of that. But we're talking about a lot of time that seems to have passed without any significant development. So that leads you to, what is it that Nathan is going to bring to this that would change the decisions of his predecessors in terms of prosecution? I think it'll just be a really pretty exhaustive. It sounds like a pretty exhaustive review, and we'll wait to see what he has to say about it. I know that Kyron's mother, Desiree, has said point blank she would like to have her ex-husband's ex-wife, Terry, then known as Terry Horman, prosecuted. I guess we'll have to see what the decision is on that.
And I don't want to talk down to our audience because they're very smart. But just to put it out there, I think the three of us know that the issue with prosecuting, say, anybody who has been named or not named, nobody has been named a person of interest. Prosecuting anyone means that they could not be prosecuted again for this crime. So they want to make sure that they are doing what they need to do to make sure this gets seen to the end that they hope for, which is justice. There's a lot of talk. We talked a little bit about armchair sleuths, a lot of talk on Reddit and the other places where true crime people gather and scream at one another. Why isn't, we've got a character who's given a grand jury testimony. Why weren't we able to take it? It's just really, really complicated. Like you said, it is a huge case. And even somebody like you, like our colleague Max Bernstein, who worked on this story very thoroughly, I mean, we have no access to much of this case, which also makes it, I think, more tantalizing for the public and maybe more frustrating for journalists. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, Noel, do you have children?
Uh-huh.
Yes. Did you at the time of this case?
Yes, I did. Yes. They
Is
were
it
very young.
difficult? Is it difficult to separate that sort of thing?
You know, um, yes, it is. It's very difficult. And I think that's why in interviewing Desiree a couple of weeks ago, um, I just I have a lot of empathy and sympathy for her, and I find the fact that she's functioning every day and still really strongly advocating for her son. It's very it's really admirable. And so I guess that's what I would say as as a parent. And back to the issue of this case getting another review. And I think it's important that you know th- uh, Nathan Vasquez is the new district attorney, and so he's going to bring, and he's a longtime prosecutor. Um, so he's going to bring a new, uh, fresh eyes to something, and so who knows what that will turn up. I guess I just wanted to say that I don't think it's any kind of foregone conclusion. I think he's a very he's really committed to taking another look at this, and he's committing resources to that. And who knows what that will produce.
Shane had a great little bit about like it just literally can't hurt, right? If there are resources to be given to these stories that need more attention, like this is kind of, he said not so many words, but like a net good, right? And
Yeah.
I agree. It doesn't mean that it will come to the conclusion that people ultimately really, really want, but it does mean that Kyron Horman and his remaining family get another chance at hopefully the justice that they want, which is whatever they, you know, is different for both of the parents, as they've said publicly.
Do you think that there are any advances in technology that have happened in the past 15 years that might make it easier for a fresh set of investigators, prosecutors to make some headway on this case?
I don't know. I mean, that I guess that I'm not sure if there are scientific or forensic advancements that could be brought to bear here. I think there's a general kind of feeling that time is not on your side in a case like this. And in fact, the story I wrote within a week of Kyron's disappearance was just that there was some early, a lot of time was lost that day. He wasn't reported absent until mid-morning, and then that really didn't go anywhere anyway, the report of being absent. And then it wasn't until later in the day that a school secretary reported to 911. And then the school is in an isolated area, so it took authorities a while to get out there. And so now we're talking about nighttime, and we're also talking about a very young child. So, and I remember talking with experts at the time that this was universally bad. This is a very bad. Every moment you've that passes is an opportunity lost. And now we're at the 15-year mark, which, I mean, Desiree Young acknowledged very upfront in our conversation is not a good place to be. We also don't have remains. We don't have Kyron's body, also complicating, because we don't really have we don't have a sense of the crime scene. We don't have Kyron. And so time, on the one hand, yes, it's allowed for advancements, and perhaps people's memories, people's motivations change over time for wanting to disclose things. So perhaps time has maybe created some openings for investigators with people who perhaps at the time were reluctant to talk. But by and large, time is seen as kind of an enemy in these kinds of investigations, and breakthroughs are harder and harder to come by. They're not impossible. Of course, we're writing about breakthroughs in cold cases fairly regularly, but those are cases where we have remains.
Is there anything else you want to ask, Destiny?
Just the old, is there anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about?
It's really telling that I feel that this news organization has been really serious about this story and covering every aspect of it from the literally from the moment we got the call on it, and right up until a couple weeks ago when we had this anniversary story where we were trying to, break some news and the fact that the DA is taking a look at it. I mean, I think we brought a lot of serious journalism to bear on this, and I think all of the reporters who've been working on it over the years, some of whom were there at the beginning, like myself and Max, we understand the importance of this case in the community, and I think we've tried to cover it as exhaustively as we can, and yet we still don't have answers to the most basic question of what happened to him that day.
Thanks so much for listening to our conversation today. You can find more at OregonLive.com. For the latest on the Kyron Horman case, go to www.OregonLive.com/topic/Kyron-Horman. Join us next time for another episode of Beat Check.
If you like the show, give us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps people find the show. And tell a friend. Help spread the word. The best way to support our journalism and stories like this one is with a subscription to the Oregonian or Oregon Live. You can do that at OregonLive.com/pod support. Until next time.